Greetings and welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. Gyesie, transformational coach here at Inner Mileage, where we help folks understand the trauma-informed basis of limiting self-beliefs and how to take inspired action to shift and live the life you want right here, right now. Today, I want to talk to you, empaths, about how self-love breaks the spell of narcissistic abuse. You see, narcissistic abuse isn't just emotional torment, it's a spell. And the only way to really break it is through radical self-love, primarily because the narcissist can only reach you with hate, in a place of hate. Sometimes disguised as love. So when you're in a place of love, you are out of resonance with that narcissistic energy. You see, this is because narcissistic abuse is not simply a toxic relationship dynamic. It isn't. What it is a spiritually disfiguring, energetically binding contract that locks empaths into roles of inferiority, sacrifice, and depletion. And narcissists operate like unconscious magicians, casting psychological and energetic spells that blind, confuse, and trap their targets. And their tools are subtle. There's gaslighting, there's love bombing, there's blame shifting, a big one, and importantly, emotionally triangulation. And these are not just behaviors, they're actually patterns of psychic programming. So what we're going to do is dismantle all of this by starting with the understanding of the architecture of narcissistic abuse. So here I make a reference to Buddhism. In regards to the hell realm, which is where the narcissist lives, realms are not physical locations, or they could be, but they really are mental states that shape perception. So the hell realm is one of torment, obsession, hatred, and craving, a state that the narcissist inhabits and wants to recruit other people into. And the narcissist's behavior can be viewed as a karmic echo of unresolved past lives and unmet traumas, really projected outward as manipulation, rage, and control. Conversely, the empath, who may have a kind of a bodhisattvic calling, if you may, or really high karmic sensitivity, becomes the karmic sponge. In other words, the empath, you and I, absorb, feel responsible for, and unconsciously try to alchemize the narcissist's suffering. But in doing so, we enter the hell realm with them. And I've been there, and I'm sure a number of you have been there. But when we go further into, let's say, polyvagal theory, it shows that trauma creates a hierarchy of responses in the nervous system, whether it's safe connection, fight or flight, and then fawn or freeze. And narcissistic abuse chronically activates the freeze response. It's sort of this dorsal vagal shutdown, which leads to emotional paralysis, numbness, and dependency. And of course, I reference often the work of Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who explained that trauma survivors often confuse familiarity with safety. And empaths mistake a narcissist's inconsistency for love because the empath's trauma map has normalized chaos. And the result is the empath stays bonded neurologically and chemically to the one who harms them. Now we think a little bit about how spell casting and an energetic entrainment also keeps you trapped. And particularly when we look at deep magic science, a spell is any pattern of intention plus emotion plus repetition, which becomes a belief. And narcissists cast these spells unintentionally through repeated scripts. You made me do this, nobody will love you, you suck, you're like your mom, you're like your dad, you're this and that. And these mantras act as dark affirmations, and over time, they form neural grooves in the empath's brain, as well as the belief system. And this causes you and I to internalize self-hate, guilt, and confusion. And so you realize that the spell is not just in the words, it's also in energetic frequency. You see, this is what these narcissists are very adept at doing. But when we talk about self-love, particularly from a quantum theoretical standpoint, the observer collapses infinite possibilities into a single outcome, the observer. The narcissist's abuse keeps the empath observing through a trauma lens, thus collapsing every new experience into fear, unworthiness, and guilt. And when the empath turns inward with love, you shift the point of observation, just as I described previously. Suddenly, the field collapses differently because a new possibility has been created from within. This is not just metaphysics, it's quantum mechanics applied to consciousness. Additionally, abuse operates like a fractal, repeating on every level of life, meaning childhood abuse, to be very specific, is repeated in adult relationships, workplaces, even spiritual communities. And these repeating structures are mathematical, but fractals also contain potential for disruption. So when you think about chaos theory, a system reaches a bifurcation point where it must evolve or collapse. Self-love is that point. It's the moment an empath refuses to abandon themselves, and as a result, the whole fractal pattern is interrupted, corrupted, ended. So you realize that self-love reactivates the medial prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain responsible for self-awareness and inner decision-making. And when an empath practices mindfulness, these mirror neurons stop reflecting the narcissist's pain and begin to reflect inner peace. And this shift builds a new neural network, one based on safety, self-trust, and emotional regulation. This is not just recovery, this is neuro-spiritual resurrection. Now, when you think about self-love, foundationally, every sacred text speaks to the centrality of self-love. In Christianity, it says, love your neighbors as yourself, which implies self-love as a prerequisite. In Islam, the Quran states, God does not change the condition of people until they change what is in themselves. And then in the Kabbalah, the inner Lord Yesod is the gateway to transforming the outer world, Malkuth. So you realize that self-love really is a spiritual imperative, not a modern trend. And when you practice meditation, or even Vipassana meditation, you learn to witness thoughts without identification, let's say. And this breaks the empath's fusion into the narcissist's voice. And you realize that your body reacts to abuse, right? And as you begin to observe yourself, you start to see how the body's reaction to abuse looks like. You start to sense and feel into the tones of fear and shame. And you begin to see the thought patterns of self-blame, but also see how all these experiences come and go. They're all impermanent. That method of observation, which requires some training, is the beginning of energetic detachment. And if anything I've said to you resonates, or if I can help you and you're really serious, type transform in the comment section. Note that the Heart Mind Institute reveals that the heart has its own brain and its own electromagnetic field, right? So loving oneself generates coherence in this field, which creates inner internal clarity and order. So it's important to realize that when you start to love yourself, no contact is the severing point of communication. But more important than no contact is no resonance, which is energetic sovereignty. It means the narcissist's frequency cannot touch you because your field no longer feeds on pain, guilt, or the need to be needed. Self-love changes your resonance, and narcissists cannot survive in high coherence fields. They cannot. You become invisible to their predatory radars. So this kind of alchemy is the transmutation of your chaos and trauma into power and purpose. So when you radically accept the truth of how these narcissists are, it means you're facing reality without judgment. And it's not giving up, because we often resist seeing the narcissist as they are. But the empath, know that the narcissist can only cast spells, but only you can break it. And when you return to yourself, you return to your purpose. This is not a metaphor This is all about spiritual physics because self-love changes your field. It recalibrates your nervous system and ascends you out of the hell realm. Keep shining and know there's no one like you. Peace.